And my next guest, the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, Jason Miyares. Mr. Attorney General, good to have you with us, sir.
Great to be with you. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, it's this transgender model policy that the Youngkin administration put out. I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's an obligation they have by law to put out on how the issue of transgenderism is encountered in the schools. And what the Youngkin administration said is, look, parents have to be involved in literally everything, and kids have to use facilities that are associated with their actual sex. Do I have that right?
Well, I mean, listen, it clarifies that the governor's model policies are full compliance with the law, both under the Equal Protection Clause, Title IX, and the Virginia Human Rights Act. But really, our Attorney General opinion that is considered a quasi-judicial ruling, it simply confirms what an overwhelming number of Virginians already know, which is parents have a fundamental right to the care, upbringing, and education of their children. By the way, that is also considered one of the most oldest and fundamental rights by the United States Supreme Court. And parents, not government, are in the best position to work with their children on both their biggest life decisions. But also, I don't think any mom or dad signs up to be a co-parent with the government. And it's the idea that parents have to be involved. But it also protects Title IX sports and protects women's sports as well. That was another aspect of the governor's model policies that we reviewed, and it's fully in compliant with the prior federal rulings. And so, the governor's desire has always been to what he campaigned on, which is parents matter. You can't cut parents out of the process. And too many local school boards at this point have decided they've wanted to do so. That's why we issued the AG opinion, to just provide some, I think, clarity that was needed. And so our hope is the school boards that have changed their policies or decided to ignore the governor would do a motion to reconsider or revisit.
Right, but what if they decide that they want to continue to ignore this? Because my understanding, based on what you're just saying here, is that this is the law. If the governor puts forward this model policy, you have to follow it in Virginia, but that assumes that there are consequences for breaking the law, right?
Yeah, I mean, school boards are not allowed to adopt policies that are inconsistent with state laws. But the way the law is written, the way the code section is written, if parents have their rights violated, they can sue. And my office will evaluate every claim on a claim-by-claim basis, on a case-by-case basis, and our office stands ready to participate if it rises to the level we feel is appropriate for us to participate in. But that is the one risk that every school board has to understand is parents are not, you can't cut parents out. They have a right to bring a claim if their rights are violated.
So you are prepared to help parents in their lawsuits against these school boards if necessary?
Correct. We will evaluate every lawsuit on a case-by-case basis, and we stand ready to participate and we'll evaluate. But yes, we stand absolutely ready to participate and assist.
And what kind of damages would a school board face if they're guilty of violating the rights of these parents? Does that mean taxpayers are then on the hook for some sort of money?
Well, without too much speculation, I imagine most of what the parents would seek would be some type of injunctive relief to have the courts order the schools to implement the governor's policies. But again, that's going to be dependent upon what is filed, how it's filed, and what area of the law they file under. And but it goes back to exactly what I think most Virginians recognize as common sense. And it's a little bit shocking to me that something that if I had just said to you 5 years ago, Vince, hey, parents have a fundamental right to the education upbringing of their children, that would not be considered a controversial statement. It has somehow become a controversial statement. It's not. And think about this. A school district, in order to give a child in a school district so much as an aspirin, they have to get permission from the parent. So much as an aspirin. But right now, some of these school boards are essentially saying, we may have to get your permission to give your child an aspirin, but we do not have to give your permission if we're going to change your child's gender pronoun. We do not have to consult with you. We don't have to notify you at all. And I think most parents hear that and they think that is cutting parents out. And from the beginning, the governor's attitude was parents matter. Parents need to be part of this discussion. And you certainly cannot cut them out because, as I noted, no mom or dad wants to co-parent with the government. These are decisions left up between the parent and their child.
The sports body that's responsible for sports for high schoolers across the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's called the Virginia High School League, VHSL. They have announced that they will not be following this transgender guidance from the Youngkin administration. They claim they're not even subject to it. What's the truth there?
Listen, I understand that was, I think, the executive director made that statement. They have not had a meeting of their board. And since then, we've released the Attorney General opinion that my hope that they will both read it and read it to heart. But the whole reason we have Title IX is to protect women's sports. And even the Supreme Court has noted that there are biological differences between the sexes. The idea that we are now in this situation where we're trying to ignore those differences, I think, defies all logic. I'm old enough to remember the Olympic Games in the 1980s where you would have Eastern European athletes or Russian athletes that would be suspended, female athletes that were suspended and would get stripped of their medals, stripped of their ability to participate in competition because their testosterone levels were too high. And I remember that vividly. And it seems like the Virginia High School League seems to be forgetting one of those fundamental truths, which is there are biological differences between men and women, and that's the whole reason why we have Title IX sports to begin with. And the governor wants to protect women's sports, not try to erase it.
Are you surprised that you have local officials across the state, at least in the areas that you and I are talking about, who seem to be in open insurrection against the voters of the state?
I mean, I think it's unfortunate that they have found themselves in an ideological box that they cannot get themselves out of. The great irony is if you look in Europe, you have numerous sports leagues in Europe, even other leagues that are recognizing this difference, that are laying down markers saying that biological males are not going to be allowed to participate in women's sports. You've even had the NCAA with women's swimming that have now since reversed some of the positions they took previously. So the great irony is both at the collegiate level and in Europe, you're seeing a variety of different governing bodies of different sports leagues recognizing what is pretty much common sense. And so I am a bit surprised that they haven't recognized what other entities are doing. I'd have to think that maybe this is a little bit of politics from their standpoint, and they simply aren't willing to budge for that reason.
Okay, so I think the takeaway from our conversation today, Mr. Attorney General, and thank you as always for chatting with us about all of these important issues, is that the governor's guidance on these transgender policies are consistent with all of the human rights acts and equal protections clauses and Title IX that they need to be, and that you, the Attorney General, stand ready to assist parents in lawsuits against school boards who continue to stand in opposition to these parents.
We often say as the Attorney General's office, we stand as the people's protector, and that absolutely means protecting one of the most fundamental liberty interests that we've ever had in this country, was the right of a parent in the education upbringing of their child. So yes, we stand ready, willing, and able to assist in protecting the rights of parents.
All right. Mr. Attorney General Jason Miyares of the Commonwealth of Virginia, thank you for your time today. Good to talk to you, sir.